As you can see in the title of this video, it's gonna be another retrospective on one of my old videos. But this one, it's not even that old. I mean, it technically kind of is, but you get the point. And also, as I haven't decided which VHS or DVD I'm gonna be talking about for home video recollection, that series may be in a massive hiatus unless if I think of something. We'll see. Anyway, in this video, I'm gonna be talking about a project of mine that was left abandoned years ago and didn't have the urge to continue it. And before I can delve into it, I'm gonna tell you how that project came to be. So let's go all the way back to my infancy. Remember in some of my videos that I keep on bringing up a certain VHS tape that I watched as a little kid? Well, you'd already know that I'm referring to this tape, where it has episodes from the Welsh versions of Fireman Sam, known as Sam Tan, and Super Ted's follow-up series, The Further Adventures of Super Ted. My grandparents had this tape for me to watch, just like these that I mentioned in a prior video. The episodes that I can recall watching from that tape were for Fireman Sam, Lost in the Fog or Yna Newell in Welsh, and Bentley the Robot, or in Welsh, Y Cyfaill Bentley. And as for Super Ted, Sheepless Nights and Dots Entertainment, known in Welsh as Nosau Gigwsg and Pobl y Dotiau respectively. And I didn't remember that Fireman Sam had 2 additional episodes on the tape, those being All in a Good Cause and Brass Band, both of which are called At Achos Da and Band Pres in Welsh. How I could not remember these 2 episodes on the tape, I'll never know. Was it because I was scared of the Super Ted episodes as I grew a bit older? Or maybe it was a Mandela effect of me thinking that this tape had 2 episodes of the respective shows until I found out that Fireman Sam had 4 episodes on it. Not to mention, for years, this tape was considered lost media as it wasn't available on any websites like Amazon or eBay. However, there was one user by the name of Super Ted TV, whom I can tell, uploaded a cringe-worthy dub of the episode Sheepless Nights back in 2010 and said that he found it on a tape called Super Ted a Sam Tan, and since he's been inactive for about 14 years, it's unlikely he'll ever come back and say where he found the tape. It wouldn't be until much later when I went onto the Wayback Machine and accessed the Welsh company Sign's old website back in the early to mid 2000s. I looked into several of the VHS tapes that I've known to watch during my childhood, such as Thomas, Spot, Sally Mally, Tecwyn y Tractor, Will Quack Quack, and pretty much the rest. And then there was one that I finally came across for what felt like years. Beneath the 2 Super Ted tapes was a tape that was lost to time, and it was called Arwyr S4C, with the subtitle being Super Ted a Sam Tan. From what I can tell, the only website where anyone can purchase that tape was through Signs during the 2000s, and that no further copies have been surfaced on other websites since. So, in case you don't know, Arwyr S4C is Welsh for S4C Heroes, and funnily enough, it led me to make a parody of Sonic Heroes where characters from S4C's kid shows from the 80s replace the roles of Sonic characters. For example, I had Fireman Sam as Sonic cause both of them are known to be heroes, Will Quack Quack as Tails cause, I don't know, both of them are yellow-coloured animals that have the ability to fly, and Knuckles as Super Ted, since both of them are strong, affiliated with the colour red, and like Will and Tails, are anthropomorphic animals. Those are the comparisons I can get from them. Not only that, but I also used a text replacing website to have scripts of several cutscenes from Sonic Heroes with Sam, Will, and Super Ted in place of the members of Team Sonic, and even Super Ted's nemesis Texas Pete take the role of Dr. Eggman. I also considered having other characters involved, like Rudlan from Rala Rudins, Tecwyn y Tractor, and Sally Mally. Soon I decided that I should make an Avengers Infinity War-esque project featuring S4C's kid shows from the 80s, 90s, and a bit of the early 2000s. It was around that time in 2020 where I was in an identity crisis with my YouTube channel as I ran out of ideas of what content I should make. So, I made a trailer using render forest as clearly seen on the bottom right, built with epic music telling us that characters from everyone's childhoods will team up and take down an evil threat. Those included Fireman Sam, Sally Mally, Super Ted, Tequin Attractor, Will Quack Quack, Rala Ruddins, Plismon Pew, Sean Blauenkoch and his family from Foxtails, Tuts and Raxin from Raxin Argoiden Heed, and many more. It wasn't the first time that characters from children's shows by S4C crossed over with each other, cause as far as I know, there was an hour-long television special that aired back in November of 2002 to commemorate S4C's 20th anniversary, where it featured characters from shows like Kathy Sally Mally, Tequin Attractor, Pot Mel, Raxin Argoiden Heed and Bugan being invited to a party held by Martin Geraint and Laurie Williams, the presenters of a Planet Plant Bach block. It was thankfully released on VHS in 2003, but didn't surface online as the tape is very rare to find. I mean, I hope someone will. Anyway, the project S4C Heroes was originally slated to come out in fall of 2020 before the release date was undecided, as I didn't know what to do with my channel, other than making a series of videos called VHS and DVD Memories. It wouldn't be until when someone asked me when the project will come out, and I told them that I forgot about it, and soon, that someone discussed our ideas on that project through Discord. Yes, I have a Discord account. I didn't tell you this until now. The user, who has been deactivated since, suggested that the project would be about hit entertainment and the history of a toy company. But I dismissed that idea as it had nothing to do with S4C or any of its shows, as it would pay tribute to the people who've watched these shows in their childhoods. I thought of making the project hand-drawn in MS Paint or a video comic before I settled making it on Serif Draw Plus X5. I then worked on the script, which took me about 5 days to finish. Oof. And before I can tell you why and how it was unfinished, I'm gonna give you an in-look of the project itself and what it could have been. Without further ado, here's what S4C Heroes was about. The video starts with a notice saying that it's a fan-made project and that the characters in that video belong to their rightful owners, blah 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 blah. And there's even a warning saying that there are moments that may be a bit dark. What dark moments? From what I can tell, aside from Rudlan and Dewindul being confronted and captured by a villainous dragon that I won't name until later, and the backstory of the dragon, hardly anything dark happens. Unless if the intense fight scene that only happens in the script counts. Before we move into a logo I made on Render Forest, and boy, with a logo and name like that, it's a shame my fan movie making career was wasted on this. We then cut to a set of old TVs playing kids shows on S4C, accompanied with text explaining about the history of S4C and what the first shows to air on the channel were. It went on to explain the first ever shows aimed towards kids in Welsh and how more came over the years and how they've captivated Welsh audiences and stuff. The text, supposedly the narrator in the project, also asked, what if our heroes in these shows met and first starting the story? The story starts out in the desert of the Wild West, where we see the main villain of Super Ted, Texas Pete, alongside his two cronies, Bulk and Skeleton, seeking out to find some treasure that belonged to George Armstrong Custer, an American Army officer and cavalry commander during the American Civil War and the American Indian Wars. And I was researching to find which buried gold mine Texas Pete would find and picked this one from this website, as it's consequentially a part of Texas's character since he's a cowboy and wants to gain fortune and power over everyone. So, after a bit of squabbling and tomfoolery from his cronies, Texas carries on just until he, Bulk and Skeleton stop at a nearby mountain, which the cowboy senses the treasure is underneath them. They start digging, and about an hour later, the two cronies feel wearied out, though a determined Texas tells them they'll find it when they've finished, just as his shovel hits something black and Texas inspects it. Some mysterious build-up there. And before anyone can start, the drawings were made using Serif Draw Plus X5, which I've had since 2013, and that I did the editing on MovieZilla, which I thought was superior than the average movie maker software. I included some music from things such as the 2004 Thunderbirds movie, some Sonic games, Super Mario Galaxy 2, and pieces of Thomas music whenever something silly happens. And the drawings. Yeah, you can tell that I'm still an amateur at best, as I traced over several images as references, and since it had no voice acting, I had these speech bubbles to provide what the characters were saying. I don't know what I was inspired by, but maybe it was those comics on YouTube where they put music over without any voice acting, but that's just me. Meanwhile, in another universe, we see Sally Mally and her pet bird Jackdaw heading to her friend Jack-a-Jook at his house. She finds Jack making a statue of Ginny, Sally's sister and Jack-a-Jook's love interest, where in an episode of Penterbach, Jack is married to Ginny. It exists, please believe me. Upload the episodes to the internet for God's sake. And we then cut back to Texas and his cronies in the West as Bulk and Skeleton discuss of what the black thing in the ground is as... Oh, didn't know Tequin would show up early in this project. So apparently, there are some files that I misname and as a result, replace the original drawing with the one that's supposed to be seen later. That's how I can remember it happening. So, as the three dig around the mysterious black object, Bulk suggests a possible treasure being a pink dinosaur that spits out cheese balls. That's Bulk's personality. He's dumb. Cause I read through several articles of the characters in the Super Ted wiki while making the script for research. Angered by Bulk's suggestion, Texas, in a fit of rage, tears a crack in the black object with his shovel by accident. When something in the crack glows and starts to levitate, revealing a big black orb, something speaks in the orb, stating that they're free from 1,000 years and plots revenge on humanity. Two fists punch out of the orb before revealing to be a black dragon by the name of Drake D. And boy, he was acting all Rita Repulsa when writing for his imprisonment.
After 10,000 years, I'm free!
And let me state my creation behind the dragon. Drake D was made to be the main antagonist of a project, and he's basically a reference to the Welsh dragon, known in Welsh as a Vraig Goch, as a symbol that represents Wales and appears on the country's flag. I made him black and named him Drake D, which is Black Dragon in Welsh, just like what the Welsh dragon was called in that language. Plus, I modelled him after Spyro as he was depicted in the Legend of Spyro trilogy. And that was before I got into the trilogy by watching the playthroughs. Looking back at his design now, I feel like it should have some adjustments. One example I got is by making his head small, as most large dragons do. I think it's because I modelled him after Spyro as he's a small dragon, but who cares, he's cartoonishly designed to be that way. Texas and his cronies look up in confusion about Drake D and his name, and even Bulk thinks that it's French for toasted badger. This insulted the black dragon that he yelled at for free as Bulk and Skeleton hide behind Texas. Texas, stoic as ever, asks the dragon what he wants, and Drake D tells them he's looking for powerful color-coded artifacts known as the 4 Lamps of Firing Enchantment. Creative name there. I kinda made them like the Infinity Stones or the Chaos Emeralds and... Okay, the order of the text in the speech bubble is wrong there. The paragraph where Drake D explains about the colored lamp should be at the top, while the line where he explains about the blue lamp should be at the bottom. I didn't know what I was thinking when making the speech bubbles in this drawing. Drake D explained that the lamps were made by a wizard named Duvrik the Eldest, and that was one of the names I've considered as a reference to someone affiliated with S4C. And that's him. Not the best choice. The dragon then went on his story that he intended to get the lamps and turn them into black and pure darkness until he was thwarted by some knights who sealed him in an orb called a dim bead, the nothingness in Welsh. Again, really creative. So, Texas offers to help Drake find the lamps and aid him on his quest. Meanwhile, in yet another world, God, who knows how big the S4C multiverse is, we are shown to be in Tuvin Divir, the home of Tequin the Tractor, where the titular tractor is taking his friend Tum Trailer to work with Karadog the Combine Harvester and... Yeah, that's what I meant about me misnaming files and pictures showing up early when they're not supposed to. I even made Tequin expressive much like how he was in the books, as I pointed out in a video I made years ago that Tequin has only one facial expression in the show due to budget reasons, and that I gave the rest of the farming equipment and vehicles faces like they have in the books as opposed to them being faceless in the TV show. And we then have another meanwhile moment where we're in Pontypandy, the home world of Fireman Sam. Wait, how can there be a multiverse if most of these shows that have characters in this project come from Wales? Or maybe they have their own interpretations, I dunno. So, in Pontypandy, we see the fire brigade preparing for the fire station to be on display. And what you didn't know is that some of the dialogue when we first see Elvis and Steele is ripped straight from the Fireman Sam book, Bella and the Bird's Nest. And instead of it being an adaptation of a book where Station Officer Steele's medal goes missing, it becomes its own thing where it has Sam and Trevor inspecting around the fire station before the display takes place. Oh, and that line where Trevor says to Officer Steele that Elvis had taken a shower and that he left the towels on the floor, that was a jab at how my brother takes showers and often leaves them on the floor without picking them up and drying them. That was what the reference to that line was. And then we cut back to Texas, his cronies, and Drake in the West. Okay, so what was the point of having characters like Sally Mally, Tequin, Tractor, and Fireman Sam show up in this? They barely contribute anything other than reminding us they're shows that aired on S4C. My best guess is that they would have been central to the plot where they later team up together to stop Texas and Drake from taking over the world. But since later parts of the project didn't come to fruition, the most we get as far as I know, Rudland, Dewindul, Super Ted and Spotty. So, back at the West, Texas explains to Drake about his goal to get rid of Super Ted and his plans of world domination. Drake buys into Texas's goal of killing the super-powered teddy bear, and I just had to cram in that reference to a certain character by Sega, didn't I? Cause I'm a massive fan of him. Drake makes use of his dark energy powers, one of which is a portal, which he calls the Night Portal. Because it's suddenly established he can do that without being taught by anyone, so maybe he came up with that power? The four villains go through the portal and for whatever reason, instead of riding Drake, Texas, Bulk and Skeleton just come out of a portal that's floating in the sky on the other side and fall off it, which would result in them falling to their deaths. But they were thankfully saved by the Black Dragon. And this was where I gave Drake some character development, where that scene showed his helpful side when he saved Texas and his henchmen from plummeting to the ground. Although he's shown to be secretly dismissive when Skeleton asks him if saving is what friends do, having the emphasis on the word friends, as it's implied that Drake may or may not used to have friends back in his time. The villains find themselves in Somewhereland or Gladarula, the home world of Rudlan, Ralarudins and the other witches and wizards, and set their quest to retrieve the lamps. Elsewhere, we see Rudlan and her friend Dewindul, or as I named him in this project, the Stupid Wizard, because there wasn't an English translation of the name I could find at the time, where I found out he's also called the Silly Wizard. And plus, Ralarudins is Rudlan's mother, and Dewindoif, aka the Smart Wizard, is the Silly Wizard's father? Okay, so before I rewatched Ralarudins, the television show, information on the franchise was very scarce, as no source told me about the characters. For the longest time, I thought that Ralarudins was Rudlan's mother, when in actuality, Rudlan was just an apprentice who works with Ralarudins at her grotto and didn't state they were mother and daughter. The same can be said for the silly wizard and the smart wizard, as the former just works with the latter at the honey and mead factory. And because of the scarce information, I just assumed they were related and made Rala Rudins and the smart wizard their children respectively. So, Rudlan and the silly wizard spot a yellow lamp stuck in the tree. And that lamp just happens to be one of the 4 lamps of firing enchantment. Rudlan brings it down the tree using a stick and the lamp just lands on the ground, apparently not breaking though. The lamp starts glowing on and off for whatever reason, if it was building up to something. Back with the villains, Bulk and Skeleton become tired after walking around the forest for 30 minutes and stop to have a break. Texas overhears Rudlan and the silly wizards talking about the lamp they found, as the former suggests she lets Rala Rudins, her mother, to investigate it. The two have got the lamp before the crooks can get their hands on it. And Bulk, because of his stupidity, tells Texas rather than stealing from the little witch and wizard, they should ask the two to bring the lamp to them politely so that Drygd can finish his goal. But Texas disapproves of this and yells at him that they're villains. They steal, they destroy, they don't do good deeds. The evil cowboy's outrage had made Drygd look in shock as he had yelled at his henchmen. But despite this, Texas cooled his anger down and sets his plan to steal the lamp. We cut back to Rudlan and the silly wizard as they bring the lamp to Rala Rudins, but then trip on a rope that was set as a trap by none other than the villainous Texas Pete. The two are then encountered by the Black Dragon, Drygd, who demands the two that they give the lamp to him. Rudlan refuses, and with no choice, Drygd fires another ball of dark energy. However, it doesn't hurt the two, as it instead puts them in a bubble cage, which the dragon refers to it as his capture spell. The villains then set off to find 3 of the remaining lamps, as Rudlan and the silly wizard are left trapped in the bubble, with no one knowing they're in trouble. Luckily, deep in the Amazonian jungle, Super Ted and Spotty Man receive a distress signal from Mother Nature, who tells the two about the situation. And how does she know that Texas Pete went into another dimension with a black dragon with dark energy powers? Isn't Mother Nature just a regular fairy who watches over the weather and makes magic potions, and not some psychic who can see in other dimensions? Whatever, I guess I made that as part of her character now. So, the two head their way to the magic cloud where Mother Nature resides. And I even attempted to throw in some Easter eggs there. Mother Nature uses a spell known as the Another Place spell, where it spawns a portal and can take someone to another dimension. Super Ted and Spotty jump into the portal to go and rescue Rudlan and the silly wizard. They find themselves in Somewhere Land, just as they hear the 2 children's cries for help. They fly over the forest just as Spotty sees the 2 from above. The 2 heroes land in front of a cage when Super Ted assures Rudlan and the silly wizard that they'll free them from the shield and... Oh. And that's how it was left unfinished. The reason why I didn't continue it was because when I was drawing the scene on Serif Draw Plus when Rudlan and the silly wizard are confused about the sight of a talking superpowered teddy bear coming to save them, half of the unfinished drawing stopped working as Serif Draw Plus X5 couldn't handle any more drawings, causing it to crash, and thus I forgot to save it, or it didn't auto-save. So, I decided to give up as I thought that it was too much work to complete the project, and during April Fool's Day in 2021, I uploaded the teaser stating that the project is unfinished and that I uploaded it to my Google Drive in fear of it getting copyright strikes, as I used music from movies like Thunderbirds, the Sonic movie, the SpongeBob movie, Sponge Out of Water, and Toy Story 3. And never again did I speak about that project, as I never had the urge to continue it or redo it from scratch. Oh, but I haven't told you, as there was more to this project than it holds. The script, which is long gone as it was on my Windows 8 PC, had more going on, and I strangely titled it Act 1 when I should consider changing it to Part 1 to make it sound more fitting. Here's what else happened in the script. Super Ted frees Rudlan and the silly wizard out of a dark shielded bubble. The two explain about Texas and Drygd's plans, and the heroes set out to stop them. Texas is evilly joyed that he stole the lamp, even though it was for Dragdi, as he wants all 4 lamps. Texas dreams of becoming rich and have anything in the world to him, and Bulk suggests that he could spend on ice cream with different flavors. Texas angrily brushes it off and yells at Bulk that they stole the lamp to obtain golds and riches, not ice cream. Dragdi has had enough of a cowboy berating his cohorts and tells him that they are his helpers, even if they are at best inexperienced. Texas argues back, stating that they're nothing but worthless chumps who mess up his plans, and claims that he works alone. This heated argument caused the yelling to attract a witch who couldn't take any more of this ruckus. That witch is Rala Rudins, who heard the arguing all the way from her grotto. Texas then lassos her, not letting her get in their way of finding the lamps. Super Ted, Spotty, Rudlan and the silly wizard hear what's going on and hide behind a bush. They see that Rala Rudins has been tied up by Texas and that he, along with Dragdi, are on their quest to retrieve the lamp so the Black Dragon can become more powerful than ever. Dragdi then materializes a portal. This time it sends someone to a place where nothing ever exists. And whatever else I can remember, Skeleton ran up to Texas and tripped over him, causing his victim Rala Rudins to fall in the portal and into a never-ending abyss. Super Ted flies into the portal and saves the witch seconds before the door to the portal closes. Super Ted then goes against his foe, Texas, and completely overpowers him. Then he's up against Dragdi, possibly the most powerful opponent he's ever faced. Super Ted and Dragdi battle each other Dragon Ball Z style as they throw punches and kicks, and even Super Ted tosses the Black Dragon like what Mario did to Bowser in Super Mario 64. There's even a short gag where Super Ted is sent through the portal by an attack by Dragdi where he meets Bibi Bell, or Bibi Ball as he's called in English. The strange sight of seeing a red ball with a face and yellow arms confuses Super Ted and continues his fight with Dragdi. At one point, Dragdi fires a ball of dark energy at Super Ted, to which he dodges. However, the impact of the explosion caused by the dark energy ball started a fire and set the forest ablaze. Rudlan, the silly wizard, Rala Rudins and Spotty, who have been watching the fight from the ground, look in horror as the forest fire grows one by one. And so, Rala Rudins and Spotty do what they can to stop it from spreading. A Hiprin Druid, aka the White Weakling, is involved in the fire as he panics about. Just when he trips on a stone and sees a burning tree collapsing towards him, but is luckily saved by Spotty using his magic dust. Super Ted is able to come out on top as he defeats Dragdi with a swift kick to the head as the dragon plummets to the ground, crushing Texas and his cronies in the process. But don't worry, they're perfectly alive through cartoon logic. Super Ted then envelops the villains through a tornado, a reference to a move he makes when he defeats his enemies. The villains are then flung out of the tornado as Texas swears that they aren't done with their mission, and when they disappear onto the horizon, a twinkle can be seen in the sky. A nod to how Team Rocket is defeated in the Pokemon anime. The forest fire has been put out thanks to Rala Rudins and Spotty, and Super Ted states that Texas's goal isn't over as he's after the remaining lamps, and before he and Spotty could set off, Rudlan tells him that she and the silly wizard are coming too. Why, she didn't do anything important. She barely did anything other than finding the first lamp, getting herself and her friends trapped, and watching Super Ted fight Dragdi from the sidelines. What importance is she capable of? Oh, I know why, 'cause she's a main character and has been the face of a franchise. As if she's gonna do anything useful in that abandoned project of mine. So, Super Ted agrees to have the two join him and Spotty on their quest to thwart Texas and Dragdi, and Rala Rudins wishes Rudlan good luck and be safe from the bad guys. And that's what the rest of the script of part 1 was about. The rest that I planned in my head would have been about Texas and Dragdi stumbling across Trempan, the main antagonist of Rala Rudins, and that the dastardly witch joins the villains to help Dragdi get the lamps. The syndicate of villains then heads to the next dimension, that being Pontypandy. They stumble across the second lamp, with that one being the blue one. They are stopped by the heroes, just as Fireman Sam and the crew come in. Texas then uses the power of the two lamps and turns him into a godly form of himself or something. But it's only temporarily. Fireman Sam then joins the heroes to stop the villains from obtaining the lamps as they encounter heroes who join them and even putting up against more villains, like the evil duplicate of Tequin Chaktor that nobody remembers except me and Hopkin Hughes from Barrick, growing the number of members of the syndicate to a lot. The climax would even have Texas turning against Drake D, his cronies and the other villains and obtain the power of the four lamps all for himself, turning him into a muscular godlike form. It was then that moment when Drake D joins the heroes and tells them that Texas has gone mad with power. Even Super Ted isn't strong enough to beat him. And so through the power of friendship, Sam, Sally and Tequin defeat Texas using rays of positive energy or something like that and depowers him completely. Texas and the other villains, except Drake D as he's turned good, are arrested by the police as Texas swears to Super Ted that he'll get him next time and he'll be much powerful and all that. The heroes then go off their separate ways as Drake D is on a quest to improve his powers by looking for power sources to fuel him other than dark energy. And it would have a post-credit scene of the villains in jail as there are full-on cameos of other villains from S4C's properties or something. And that's how that abandoned project would have been about. It's basically Avengers Infinity War but with characters from S4C's old kids shows thrown in it. That's the best way I can describe it. It was left in the rubbish bin 3 years ago and I never prompted to return and either continue it or rework the entire project because it would take ages to do it. And what seemed like an ambitious project led me to just scrap it halfway through. And that's all I had to say about S4C Heroes, a thing that was left abandoned. And as for the status of my channel as of now, I don't know what kind of content I'll be making in the future. I'd much rather be doing fan art on DeviantArt or making some stuff on Office just for fun. So, as for this video, this isn't the last one to be made on my channel as I will think of something to create if I feel what kind of video I will be making. But for now, enjoy what things I've made in my channel. I'm still mostly active on DeviantArt, making fan art of things like Thomas, Sonic, Mario and all, so it means that I'm taking a huge break on my channel as I don't have any further ideas of what kind of videos I should make. But that is all I've got to give out. This is NinHitsFan2000 signing out. Goodbye for hopefully now.